On April 28, 2025, Antoinette Frank's appeal to overturn her death sentence was heard, and state prosecutors were given a week to file a response to her case. On May 15, 2025, a judge accepted Frank's appeal to overturn her death sentence and ordered a new hearing in December 2025.
A police officer walks into a restaurant and guns down her partner in cold blood. But the real shock? She wasn't done yet. She circled back with her badge still on, ready to wipe out the last witnesses. And what drove her to kill? That's the most disturbing part of all. Welcome to Death Row Diaries, where we dig deep into the darkest corners of justice. Every week, we unravel the shocking stories behind America's most notorious inmates awaiting execution. If
this video is enough for you, this kind of video is enough for you, please, I urge you to click away. For us that like gossip, we can stay.
Fascinated by the minds that break, betray, and brutalize, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a new case. Now, let's dive into the story of Antoinette Frank, a cop who crossed the thin blue line and left a trail of blood behind her. This is not just a murder case, it's a betrayal of trust, a failure of the system, and one of the most chilling cases in Louisiana's criminal history. When Antoinette Frank joined the New Orleans Police Department in early 1993, she seemed, on the surface, like exactly what the department needed. Young, driven, and a top graduate of her academy class, Frank fit the image of progress in a city desperate for change. New Orleans was plagued with corruption, racial tension, and a crumbling police force.
She's very beautiful. A very beautiful woman. I mean, that was in 1993, I think. But, can't get any uglier. She's still beautiful.
OPD needed officers badly. So badly, in fact, that they ignored glaring red flags. Frank had failed 2 psychiatric evaluations. One of the doctors, Dr. Philip Scuria, explicitly warned the department not to hire her. She lied on her application. She lacked basic emotional resilience, decisiveness, and confidence under pressure. But none of that mattered. The city was bleeding out officers faster than it could replace them. Salaries were pitiful. Morale was lower than ever. And the push to diversify the force in a majority black city gave Frank an extra edge. So, on February 7th, 1993...
Just that alone, the people who are against diversity and the push for merit, they have a point. Yeah, because somebody would say, why hire her if you can hire somebody who actually is more meritable,
Antoinette Frank was sworn in as an officer of the law. 3 weeks later, she graduated from the academy. From day one, her behavior was strange. Officers described her as shy, detached, and socially awkward, but there was something else, something hard to put into words, a coldness, a vacancy. One fellow officer later admitted she didn't know how to be a cop. Not really. She wasn't cut out for it. Supervisors tried to help. They suggested remedial training, extra oversight. She even earned a couple of community service awards that seemed more like PR than praise. But no one could have predicted what was coming. If you're already hooked and want to help support stories like this, drop a like and share this video. It helps more than you know. November 25th.
But wait, I'm concerned. If all these red flags that they are saying according to the video were so paramount, then why did they let her continue? It just goes along with to show how many people that might be like this who are still in the police force. Now, I'm not against the police. I never say or give all the hate to the police. I like the police. Their job is difficult and they be doing good jobs, But if there are people assuming, because I think her appeal was approved and there's going to be a hearing again. So I don't assuming she's as horrible as claimed in the video. And you started seeing this from a long time ago. At once, you should just take it out because this is a police force. She has access to guns and she can use them. She can use force in some cases. So why let it slide? Why would you let it slide? And it wouldn't just be her, it would be a lot of other people too. So how many of these kind of police officers do we have in the police? That would be the question.
1994. Frank was on duty when she responded to a shooting victim, Rogers Lacaze, a young, smooth-talking drug dealer bleeding in the street. Most officers would have seen a suspect. Frank saw something else. Some say she wanted to save him. Others say she was just mesmerized. Whatever the reason, that night began a relationship that would spiral into chaos. At first, she claimed she was just trying to help him, to turn his life around. But soon, things got murky. She was seen letting Lacaze drive her personal car. Worse, he was spotted inside her squad car at a crime scene. She introduced him as her trainee, her nephew, or simply waved off the questions. But behind closed doors, things turned intimate. Frank and Lacaze were lovers, deep in a secret romance that had disaster written all over it.
This feels like a movie. A police loving a drug dealer. Sounds like a movie.
Frank ignored every risk, her job, her badge, her fellow officers. She knew who Lacaze was. She knew he dealt drugs. She knew he had been shot and possibly killed before, but she didn't care. In fact, some witnesses claimed the two began robbing people together, pulling over motorists in uniform, using her authority to steal. There was even an incident in February 1995, just a month before the murders, that should have raised alarms. Witnesses say Frank and Lacaze pulled over two men after a party, and during a violent altercation, Lacaze pulled a gun, a Tech-9. One of the men tried to flee. Another man, a civil sheriff, happened upon the scene. What he saw disturbed him. Frank in uniform, watching as Lacaze waved a weapon. But instead of stopping him, Frank vouched for him. Lacaze is the good guy. Let that sink in. A uniformed officer defending a known criminal with a gun mid-crime. The incident was never formally investigated. No charges, no reprimand, nothing.
Now at this point, we can blame the police officers. Like, not just, Antoinette, we know that by now, but we can blame the police office now. Because if all these reports from when she got in till this point, and you don't even try to do anything about it, no investigation, nothing. The police office should be held accountable at this point.
Less than a month later, 3 people would be dead. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. These cases only get darker, and Antoinette Frank's story is just beginning. It was a restaurant she knew well. Frank worked off-duty at Kim An, a quiet Vietnamese restaurant in New Orleans East. The Vu family, hard-working, tight-knit, had come to trust her. They'd let her in at all hours. She had a key. She was part of their circle, or so they thought. March 4th, 1995. Just after midnight, the restaurant was closed and the staff was cleaning up. Frank had already stopped by twice that night with Lacaze to grab some leftover food. It seemed harmless, but Chow Vu, the family's daughter, felt something was off. Frank's energy was different. When she returned a third time, this time alone, Chow knew something was wrong. Chow rushed to hide the restaurant's cash in a microwave. Frank entered using her stolen key and moved quickly, pushing Chow, her brother Kwok, and another worker into the kitchen. Officer Ronald A. Williams II, Frank's colleague and fellow security guard that night, watched the scene unfold and tried to follow. But before he could reach the kitchen, Lacaze emerged behind him and fired a bullet into his neck. Williams dropped instantly, paralyzed. Then came the second shot, then the third. He was executed point blank. Frank turned back toward the dining area. The massacre had only begun. In the chaos, Chow and Kwok dragged the other worker into the back cooler. They shut off the light. Silence. Hiding in darkness, they listened. What they heard next was pure horror. Frank and Lacaze was yelling at the Vu siblings, Ha and Kwong, demanding to know where the money was. But neither of them knew where Chow had hidden it. Frank pistol-whipped Kwong. Still no answer. She opened the microwave, found the cash, and then she executed Ha with 3 bullets. Kwong was shot 6 times. He died instantly. And then they left. But Chow and Kwok were still alive. Trapped in a freezer, they tried desperately to call 911, but couldn't get a signal. Eventually, Kwok slipped out and ran to a neighbor's house. The call was made. And that's when the nightmare turned surreal. Antoinette Frank was no longer at...
This does feel like a movie. Like, this is crazy. You know, when I started the video, I read the whole nice thing to say, oh, there was an appeal and there's going to be a hearing in December. I don't know if that appeal should have been accepted. I don't know what the appeal is. Maybe I should look at what the appeal is about and what actually conspired or what actually happened. If she was involved or Lacaze was using her. This is wild. Yeah, this is just crazy. Like, you just shoot someone like that. Like, nah, this is wild. Yeah, as a judge, I wouldn't even listen to your appeal. Like, I wouldn't even have to. I don't have to do my job and listen, but I'll be like, you did it, just die.
At the scene, she had dropped Lacaze off and disappeared into the night. But when she heard the 911 call over her portable police radio, officer down at Kim On Restaurant, she made her move. She didn't run, she didn't hide. Instead, she borrowed a police car and returned to the scene, posing as a responding officer in full uniform with her badge, armed. Her goal? Kill the remaining witnesses, eliminate Chow and Kwok. But fate had other plans. As she entered through the back door, Chow was at the front, waiting for help. When Frank emerged, Chow bolted toward the arriving officers, screaming, "You saw what happened. You killed my brother and sister." Frank tried to play it off. She claimed she had no idea what was going on. She even pretended to investigate, acting like just another cop on the case. But it was over. The survivors knew what they saw. The mask had slipped. Frank was arrested on the spot. Lacaze was picked up hours later. The evidence? Overwhelming. The motive? Revenge, greed, chaos. We're only halfway through this shocking case. If you want to see how Antoinette Frank's trial became one of the fastest death sentences in New Orleans history, and how she may now escape execution, while the city reeled from the triple homicide and detectives locked up Frank and Lacaze, another grim secret was quietly waiting, buried just beneath the surface. Literally. Back in 1993, nearly 2 years before the Kim On murders, Antoinette Frank had filed a missing person report. The missing man? Her father, Adam Frank. She claimed he'd vanished without a trace after staying at her home for a short period. The case never made headlines, no searches, no follow-ups. Just another lost person in a chaotic city. But the real horror emerged after she was already sitting on death row. In November 1995, a month after Frank was sentenced to die...
Don't tell me she killed her father too. Like, at this point, it would be like signed and sealed.
Neighbor's dog began scratching obsessively beneath her house. Police investigated and found a human skull with a bullet hole in the back. It had been buried in the dirt under her foundation. Investigators suspected the skull belonged to Adam Frank. DNA testing was never publicly completed, but everyone from homicide detectives to prosecutors believed the truth was clear. Antoinette Frank had murdered her own father before she killed her fellow officer and the Vu siblings. Why? Well, here's where things get even darker.
How dark can it fucking go? How dark can you keep going? Yeah, why is she even getting an appeal? Like, this is crazy. This is just very crazy. This is wild. Yeah, this is like a walking psychopath. Yeah.
Frank had confided to psychologists and jailhouse interviews that her father had raped her repeatedly during her childhood. He was abusive, controlling, a monster in his own right, and Frank, they believed, had eventually snapped. She didn't just kill the man who abused her. She buried him right beneath her feet and told no one. And the state? They never even bothered to prosecute her for it. As one officer put it, what's the point? She's already on death row. But death wasn't...
This is just crazy. Yeah, she did that, but now there's a reason why she did that. Does that make her a better person? Like, I don't know how I'm feeling about this. There's a question about morality. I don't know if you've done ethics, but in school there was a question that was raised one time in our ethics class. This is a question. Do you kill someone who killed someone to prove that killing someone is wrong? Can you answer that question? So basically, this is the case here. Like, who is wrong in that case? Like, at what point is somebody wrong or right? Like, it's just horror. Like, it's just a lot of horror. Just a lot of horror, man.
Wasn't coming for her anytime soon. Not yet. Because what came next was a trial that shocked even the most hardened courtroom veterans. The case against Rogers Lacaze moved fast. In July 1995, just 4 months after the murders, Lacaze was found guilty and sentenced to death. His biggest mistake, he used Officer Williams' credit card at a gas station minutes after the killings. But Antoinette Frank's trial, that was something else entirely. Her legal team subpoenaed 39 witnesses. How many did they actually call? 0. It was as if her defense team gave up before it even began. The trial lasted a week. The evidence was overwhelming. Survivors took the stand. Witnesses tied her to the murder weapon. Her confession, though later challenged, was detailed and damning. And the jury? They didn't even need a lunch break. 22 minutes. That's all it took to return a guilty verdict on all counts. It was a New Orleans record for a capital murder case. The next day, they deliberated the sentence. It took just 45 minutes to recommend the death penalty. Even the judge looked stunned. On October 20th, 1995, Antoinette Frank was officially sentenced to die by lethal injection. She was transferred to the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women in St. Gabriel, where she would remain the only woman on the state's death row. Homicide detective Eddie Rance, who led the investigation, later said, "She's the coldest person I've ever met, and I've been doing this for 30 years." If stories like this leave you
There's definitely something going on in her head. Like, it's not normal. There's something like, yeah. Especially being abused as a child, I feel like that may have done something to her, because this thing is not normal. Like, it's just crazy. And also her attraction to a drug dealer, out of all the men she could have been attracted to, and then it's wild. Like, it's just in her head, she's like, the world is evil and I'm gonna kill everybody. I'm sure that's what she's thinking. Like, she's cold, like, wicked. It's rough. Yeah, I think we've done enough. Yeah, we've done enough. I don't want to keep watching the video, so I don't keep demonizing her and keep thinking all these bad things about her. You know, I feel like she's been held accountable. Yeah, and she should, you know. She should. I don't want to be the one again to spread evil thoughts about her, you know. She's facing it, and let her face it. Anyways, let me know what you think about that one. If you want us to check out some other videos, I'll put a link to this channel actually, so you can go watch the other videos. But if you would like us to check out some videos, something like this, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.